10 reasons why the victim helps maintain the narcissist's facade. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. What is the narcissist's facade? Very simply, this is what the narcissist portrays to third parties. An image, and they may have several different images, that they project to the outside world. Thus, it's what the public know a person to be, what various family members and friends know the individual to be. The facade is utilized towards third parties to cause people to believe that the narcissist is a kind person, is a charitable individual, that they are a pillar of the community, that they are successful and decent, that they are a fantastic humanitarian. There's lots of different facades that a narcissist can utilize. Most narcissists, being unaware, those that are mid-range operate a facade, and it has varying degrees of success. Aware narcissists, such as the greatest and ultra, know that they're putting on a facade to the outside world. They know that they're doing so for the purposes of controlling people and drawing fuel, etc. The nature of that facade is done to convey a particular image to the outside world, which is to the benefit of the narcissist. The facade, whether utilized by a mid-range narcissist or a greater narcissist, allows control to be asserted over various people. It causes them to respond, thus giving fuel, and it can give access to character traits and residual benefits. The facade is a residual benefit of itself. By having certain people in that facade, friends and families, it enables the narcissist to create an image to the outside world to pursue other aspects of the prime aims. One interesting aspect of the facade is that it's actually relatively common that the victim actually helps maintain the facade, i.e., they don't take any steps to try to shatter it. Why? Now, it is the case that certain people who are the victims of a narcissist, usually the intimate partner primary source, when facing the fact of realization of what they're dealing with, then wants to expose that individual to the outside world. They want other people to know that this person is a narcissist or an abuser. They want everybody else to know that this person has behaved in particular ways. But there are other instances where that doesn't happen. There are other instances where the victim doesn't take any steps to expose. Indeed, they go along with the facade. They remain silent about what the narcissist has done to them. They support the appearance by portraying a united front, by portraying an idyllic lifestyle to the outside world that all is well, which results in, when there might be an exposure of what's truly gone on behind closed doors, considerable surprise expressed by people who thought, I thought they had such a happy marriage. They seemed like the ideal family. I thought their lifestyle was idyllic. They didn't realize, of course, that one of the individuals in the dynamic was a narcissist. They didn't understand that that individual was behaving in a particular way that was causing harm to another by way of manipulation, by way of the sustained devaluation. It all took place behind those proverbial closed doors. But there are instances where victims don't do anything to expose, don't do anything to demonstrate what's truly going on, and act in a way to maintain the appearance of the facade by not acting against it. Why? Number one, Fear of retaliation. Fear is a considerable driver of behaviours. Fear causes that victim to think, I can't expose this person. I'm frightened of what they'll do to me should I attempt to or even succeed in exposing them. It might be, for instance, that the individual will be physically violent with them. They might increase the nature and frequency of the abuse. They might withdraw financial support. The individual might be reliant upon them for financial assistance. It could be that they're concerned that the narcissist would go around and smear them, worrying that people would believe that they are actually the problem. Therefore, mindful of the retaliation, because they know how horrible the narcissist can be towards them, they think better to let the world continue to believe that this person is a good person than do anything to shatter that illusion. Because if I do, and they know that it's me that's done it, I'm going to really suffer. 2, to protect the children. In some instances, this is to try and keep the family unit together. In some instances, it is to save the children the pain of having parents that are splitting up. In some instances, it is to protect the children from other people knowing that their home life is not a particularly good one, or from other people knowing that one of their parents is a nasty narcissist. Thus, the desire to protect the children means that the individual does not expose the narcissist and damage the facade. It may also be that the individual doesn't want to split up because they realise that because of the way that the narcissist operates a facade, they're likely to at least get 50-50 on a split with the children, and therefore there'll be half the time where they're not around to protect the children from the behaviour of the narcissist, and they would rather continue to suffer their own sustained devaluation and protect the children by being in the family unit all of the time than run the risk of not being there for some of the time. Number 3, shame. The victim doesn't want to be seen as a victim. They don't want to be seen as somebody who has been bullied and abused and intimidated. It might be the case that the victim is a particularly successful individual who is otherwise known for being independent, thrusting, successful, and they feel considerable shame to be cast in the light of victim, that they don't want people feeling sorry for them, that they don't want to be seen as somebody who fell prey, that they might feel that it is an insult to their intelligence that they got caught by such a person, that they have remained with an abuser. And therefore, in order to avoid that information from being placed in the world at large, they go along with the maintenance of the facade. Number 4, pride. Pride is a narcissistic trait. Everybody has narcissistic traits ranging from resentment, argumentativeness, vanity, and including pride. Different from the shame of not wanting to be seen as a victim, pride is such that the individual doesn't want to be seen as a failure. They don't want to be seen that their relationship has failed, that their marriage has foundered. They don't want to be viewed as somebody whose relationship has not worked out, and thus pride prevents them from admitting to others what is really going on. Number 5, that exposure will prevent change. Perhaps not fully aware of what they are dealing with and suffering from the often misheld belief that the abuser might be able to change, the victim, understandably but mistakenly, thinks to themselves, well, if I expose them to other people, that is going to alarm the narcissist or the abuser to such a degree that the potential for them to change their behaviour might be lost. I'm better off not shaming them or embarrassing them by exposing them, and instead staying with them to work on trying to bring about change. As you know, the narcissist cannot effect permanent change. Number 6, not being believed. Such is the power of the facade, along with the persuasiveness of the narcissist, and the way that the narcissist's behavior undermines the confidence and self-esteem of the victim, it is commonly the case that an individual makes no attempt to seek to expose the narcissist because they simply will not regard themselves as someone who will be believed. It perhaps might be also born of instances where they have tried to speak to somebody who has resisted the suggestions. What? Frank, do that? I don't think so. Or that they've spoken, for instance, to the police and they weren't taken seriously with regard to what they were saying. Their confidence has been knocked time and time again by the abusive behaviours of the narcissist. Combined with the gaslighting and revisions of history, they start to doubt their own memories and wonder, in actual fact, whether anybody would believe them if they attempted to expose the narcissist. Add into that the conviction that the narcissist shows, their geniality to the outside world, the way that they are liked and admired by other people, the victim may well reach the conclusion it's pointless, the facade is too powerful, and I'm too weak to try and do anything about it. Number 7. It's easier to go along with it than the alternative. Rather than risk the disruption and the retaliation, the hard work that might be involved and the upheaval that's associated with the exposure, it's just simpler to continue to be abused and not damage the image that is portrayed to the outside world in relation to the narcissist. Number 8. A reluctance to damage a financial situation. It may be the case that exposure would result in the narcissist, for instance, losing their job. It could be that the narcissist business suffers a downturn. If, for instance, they're a business owner and they're revealed as being a serial abuser, which would then have a residual effect upon the victim themselves because they are reliant upon the abuser financially. In effect, they would regard their exposure of the narcissist and damaging their facade as cutting their own nose off to spite their face. That by causing the loss of job, causing a downturn in the business, this then means that the financial firepower of the narcissist is affected, and the victim being reliant upon that financial firepower causes themselves a problem. Thus, they decide against taking such steps. Number 9. Being portrayed as mentally unwell, with the appropriate consequences that flow from that. It may well be the case that the victim knows that they have been smeared and that they recognise that in trying to explain to people what the narcissist is really like, going up against that facade, perhaps with minimal evidence, just their say-so, could result in them being regarded as mentally unwell, particularly as you know, accusations of mental frailty and mental unwellness are often directed at victims. If this is something that the narcissist has repeatedly pointed out to the victim, it's likely that they will have also said similar things as part of their smearing of the victim to other people who form part of the facade. Accordingly, the victim is entirely and understandably nervous of being labelled as a lunatic, as nuts, as crazy, with the consequences that could follow with regard to stigmatisation, hospitalisation, and impact upon career. And thus, they don't want to run that risk. Finally, number 10. The 10th reason why the victim helps maintain the narcissist facade by doing nothing to counter it is that they simply don't want to lose a particular image or lifestyle. This caters to their own narcissistic trait of vanity, that whilst they're being abused, they do live in a large house and have access to money, and that they have a particular image that the local community sees, that they believe that it is idyllic, and driven by this narcissistic trait of vanity, the individual puts that before their own welfare, not wanting it to be disturbed by shattering the image of the idyll that they have. Those are 10 reasons why a victim may well not do anything to expose the narcissist and thus damage the facade. But what's behind all of that? As you would suspect, it's emotional thinking. It isn't logical to remain with a narcissist in order to maintain an image of your own to the outside world. It isn't logical to remain because you think that if you expose them, it will prevent some kind of change occurring. It isn't logical to try and soak up the abuse, thinking it's easier to do that than expose the narcissist and damage the narcissist facade. Each of those 10 instances that I've given you are not governed by logic, they're governed by flawed logic, which is caused by the emotional thinking. Naturally, the victim, still living with the narcissist, is in all 5 arenas of interaction, and therefore their emotional thinking is extremely high. This means it has the power to be problematic for the victim in corrupting various traits such as pride and vanity, causing them to have increased fear when in actual fact they ought not to do so, and thus causes them, in essence, not to think straight. Thus, those are 10 reasons why the victim doesn't expose the narcissist and in turn thus is implicit, or rather complicit, in maintaining the narcissist's facade. They, of course, don't think to themselves, I want to actually help the narcissist, but they do so by not taking steps to shatter the facade, and it's driven by emotional thinking. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.